So we are getting ready to come together and do something really fun. Do you guys like fun stuff? We are getting ready to kind of run a 4-month long Spring into Vitality event series. And so how many of you can drop it in the chat or do a hand raise, have participated in a Vitality, maybe our Journey to Vitality or Vitality Cafe, Taste of Vitality? How many of you are familiar with those?
I think I've heard of it once or twice.
Yeah, so I'm seeing some action in the chat. Yep. So some of us have been to them. Some of us maybe have heard it in passing. Dana says not specifically. Well, good. I'm glad. So we're going to kind of do a reveal, an introduction, if you will, to what this looks like, what this is going to feel like for the next couple months, and then invite you in to participate with us, because Dee and myself and Andrew are definitely going to be hands-on. So like Andrew said, I am Corina Hoenshell. I'm a foster parent and a Be Strong Families staffer now, but I'm a product of our Parent Cafés. I love them. And they brought me in as a foster parent, and I was like, wait, there's more. And so I kept coming back and coming back. And so I've just really enjoyed it over the last handful of years. And now I get to be here in this seat, sharing it with you. So I hope that you get to enjoy it as well. Dee, I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
Hi, guys. My name is Dee. I've been more here back in the early part of pandemic in 2020 for tech support behind the webinars. And since Andrew joined us, he has been taking it on and flourished the whole series much more beyond. So I've usually been in the back end doing a lot of product development, some branding development, and recently updating our website, which we'll see everybody on April 1st. It'll still be the same URL, bestrongfamilies.org, but it will look new, the website. So a lot of supportive and work in the background with project managing, and a lot of collaboration with Corina and Andrew with marketing.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dee. We are grateful to have all of us getting to work together. And we are here excited to bring to you the Spring into Vitality. So if Andrew, you want to go to the next slide?
Yeah.
We're kind of introducing it to you. So as you saw the pink just a second ago, that is our mental emotional logo, the little side profile with the brain. And what that is it's a vitality that focuses on the health and well-being of your mind. And so one of the things that we want to ask is who supports you. So you may drop it in the chat. You may raise your hand and Andrew can unmute you and we can hear your voice. But we are curious, when you look around at your circle of influence, who is it that supports you?
And I can go first on this question. I feel like the three of us can talk about this while we wait for people to answer in the chat or raise their hand. But I think that the person who supports me the most is my wife. She has always been a rock in our relationship, and there's been times where I always, I feel down about myself, and I tend to get negative about things, but she always has just this energy, this calmness, and the things she says or doesn't say, sometimes she just, can sit there with me and just make me feel better. But she is always supportive and always encouraging, and that always means so much to me.
Awesome. I'm getting a lot of feedback in the chat, so let me jump in here and bring these voices in. So Lawan says, my God sisters. Colette says, husband, children, parents, coworkers, and friends. Brenda said, Eric and my kids. Carolyn says, family and friends and neighbors. Michelle brought in my husband and my daughter. Tammy says, I feel most supported by my younger daughter and my mother. Jenny, my family and my faith community. Dana said, primarily my loving husband, but my sisters, pastor, and friends are huge in my life. Pam said family and friends. Julie Ann said parents, partner, friends, coworkers. I love this. I love that everybody said something. We have a circle, right? We have someone to turn to when we need to vent. We have someone to turn to when we need to find peace and settle our minds. We have someone to turn to when we're excited and we want to share something, right? We want to process through some good things. So I love to see that and to hear that, and to be able to have multiple layers and multiple circles. How many of you like kind of filter what you share with certain people, right? We all have those like, oh, I'll tell my work friends this, but I'll tell my, my high school long-term friends this, and I'll tell my family this. So we all kind of have those. Yes, Tammy, we all have those space to where we feel like we can show up who we are and how we are. Right. And so being able to recognize that we do have supports and how we have supports is a powerful thing. Andrew, if you want to bring the PowerPoint back up. So
Yeah,
we
sure.
recognize that as we address the concept of mental emotional vitality, we had to bring in kind of this element of support, right? The next question that we want to bring to the table today is, here's a little bit deep self-reflection, a little bit of honesty. Who makes you feel like you're making a difference in the world? So who makes you feel like you're making a difference in the world? If you guys want to also, Andrew dropped it in the chat. So if you respond, I can kick us off with this one. Who makes me feel like I'm making a difference? I know this is kind of a cheat, but my kids. I have been blessed to have 14 kiddos as a foster parent over the last couple of years here in Illinois. And my current kiddos, I think, are more vocal, or maybe I'm more perceptive, but hearing them say thank you for certain things, or hearing them copy or imitate things I say or things I do, or start to adopt some of my behaviors and, the way I say things, or we love to go camping. And so like last night we did a bonfire, a little campfire, and ate outside. Typically kids aren't like, woohoo, let's do it. But like when they're in my family, they get to learn some of those things that I love. And then they start to feel comfortable in that and make it their own. And so for me, I think that's one of those things is looking around and seeing the change and hearing the change within the things they say, the way they interact with their friends and family, the way that they hold space with me differently than they did when I first met them, when they moved in, right? To be able to recognize that even at 8 and 5 years old and 19 months, running around like a crazy girl, even at those ages, the power and the impact that we have just in that day-to-day commitment to show up and to be open and to be vulnerable. We recognize and we see more than we may intend to. So it's kind of a powerful thing. Do Dee or Andrew, either one of you, want to bring in that?
Yeah, I feel like I don't have any children myself. I do have a dog, although the influence is a little bit different. I do feel happy when our dog is responding to certain commands that, trying to be like a socially acceptable canine. So there's a little bit of those where I get a little bit of taste, but I think actually more deep down with this question, I feel like I'm making a difference, especially with my family that are in China, my parents most closely. I don't necessarily talk to my parents on a day-to-day basis, but we have like every week or here and there, we have some group chats with the closest family members. I feel like since I came to the US for college, which is about 12 years ago, and all this years that I've lived in the US and connected with my family, having them visited here, and just seeing the world from a different side and with different perspectives, and me constantly telling them different things and comparing what has developed or different still like things that needed to change in China, that brought a lot of different perspectives to my parents and to my family back home, and they are able to have a fresh eye, which I feel really happy that they do, because otherwise in China, if you only are relying on the state media, is absolutely just one side of, tone and a voice, which is not the whole truth. So on that note, I feel pretty, happy in my little family that there's a little bit of freshness.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve, for sharing. I think for me, I don't have children yet either, and just thinking about this question, I think I feel like I'm making a difference in the lives of my siblings. There's 8 kids in my family just running around. And I'm 29 now, and I have a brother who was, hold on, I'm going to do the math. He was born in 2006. So he's going to be 16 soon. Yeah. So he's going to be 16, but I know that it's hard for him to, like, from 2006 till now, he's just seen so many siblings just leave the family, kind of go out and do their own thing. And I know that his experiences growing up in the physical space that I grew up in is a lot different, just because of the lack of people who are there now. And I see a lot of myself in him in the ways that he interacts with the world, and kind of is growing as a teenager. And I want to, I really want to be there for him. I think that a lot of times it's easy for an older sibling to kind of just be like, well, I'm out of the house and I don't need to, like, be talking to them anymore. But I try and, like, have video calls with him and just be honest and answer questions that he may have. Recently he's had, he's getting certain ways of looking at the world from his parents, and he's asked me questions, and I might differ in opinion than my parents, but I've always been like, okay, well, this is what I think. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's correct. I just want to talk to him and say, hey, here's what I think. Here's what mom and dad think. I want you to respect both opinions, and just continue learning on your own. I'm not going to tell you these things and just say, this is the right way to talk about things. And I feel like I feel happy talking to him about these things, because it's a perspective he might not have known before, but it's also something where I'm trying to always balance it with, like, I might be wrong or my opinion might change. And I think that it might be more important than just my opinion. More so, I'm teaching him that it's okay to change your mind on some things. It's okay to grow as you go along. So I'm really excited for him to, become an adult, 18 and 21, got to go get a beer with them someday. But I feel like I'm making, I feel like I'm making a difference in the world by my relationships with my younger siblings.
Thank you. Thank you both for sharing that. Just to bring those voices again in from the chat, Pam said, my son, Colette, definitely my coworkers. We have such supportive work family. That's awesome to hear. Jenny said, my therapist. I think that's a reciprocal relationship, right? They help us, we help them. Julie Ann, my daughter and my coworkers. Absolutely. Jennifer said the grand nieces and nephews. Sometimes we don't think our actions change generations down the road, right? So to see that and to hear that and to feel that, that's invigorating, empowering. Michelle, my daughter and the families that I work with. Absolutely. Carolyn said, my minister, when I feel like giving up, he reminds me of who called me to help, that calling from God. So recognizing, sometimes people pour into us and they give us that fresh reminder, that pick me up. Tammy said, my mom points out all the ways I'm making a difference frequently. Man, we all need a hype man or woman, right? We all need that hype person in our life to speak those things into us, especially when we're so close to it, we don't see it. Dana said, my adopted son who's living with me and watching him parent his children really shows me how I influenced him. That's awesome to have that visual. I think is it Shiny? I'm so sorry. You can unmute and correct me if I'm wrong. Family and children and their families, friends and people from work. Absolutely. We're constantly influencing where we show up. Tammy said, she always says, I'm doing God's work. It helps me put things in perspective when things are hectic or stressful, which they may or may not have been the last couple of years, right? More so than normal. Pam said, watching my son evolution from a child to a young man. That really is sometimes when I look at my kiddos, I'm like, oh wait, I did that. How do I correct that? Because they're little mirrors, and you gain so much insight and perspective on yourself when you're looking at those that you're influencing, right? Because they'll reflect some of those things back, for better or for worse. Pam was complimenting. She said, nice, Andrew. And so we're recognizing, kind of how we're showing up and in the lives of others. So I love that. Thank you. Thank you all for bringing that in this space. And I hope that continues, right? That we can be cognizant of who and how we're showing up and what those ripples look like in not only our own life, but the lives of others. Andrew, if you want to bring that slide back up.
Same slide or next question?
On the next one would be great.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got lots of responses, engagement today. Oh, so I love how vibrant this image is, right? And I feel like so often that is my headspace, but then how do I get it out? How do I express it? Right? How do I contain all of the stuff that's happening? So one of the things we are asking and we want to hear from you is, how do you recognize and express your feelings? So if you would, I would love to hear some other voices besides myself and Andrew and Dee. If you want to unmute, we'd love to invite you to speak out.
Well, so raise your hand.
Raise your hand, and Andrew knows how to do that. He can unmute you and bring you into the space. But we want to know, how do you recognize and express your feelings? Anyone?
Good question. And we have
a hand from Colette.
Yep. So Colette, go ahead.
Sorry, I had to
Colette, are you there?
We heard you for a moment.
Let me try again. And this is the technical difficulties that I was talking about earlier. So thank you for being patient with us. Colette, are you there?
She's muted.
Well, we would love to hear what you have to say, Colette. Raise your hand and I can try and unmute you again. I'm sorry that it doesn't seem to be working right now. If you find that your mic isn't working, then please feel free to post your answer in the chat. We have Cheyenne, and Cheyenne, I apologize as well if I'm mispronouncing your name. We have her hand raised.
Hi, everybody. I'm Cheyenne from York, Pennsylvania. You know, how do I express my feeling and recognize my staff, my family, you know, my friends, whatever, who people around me, you know, I do by, you know, share feeling, conversation, you know, you both are, you know, in the person, email, text, you know, body language. So in the person, you know, but most time it be, you know, maybe what I call get the way we like communicate, we like to be the pick one for the two ways communication, you know, just like that, you know, how you feel, you know, everybody have the right to speak, everybody have the right to say acceptable, you know, acceptable, you know, how to be professional, how you feel, how to have conversation together, how to work together, how you feel, same the children, you know, everybody respect each other, able to accept or express your feeling, just sometimes just listen, you know, but like no judge, we no judges, you just listen to understanding. Yeah, so everybody have the feeling, just like us, you know, everybody have the right to share how you feel, so how we work together. Yes, thank you.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And we've got more hands raised. So we've got Colette. We're going to try Colette again. I think she had some connection issues. No.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, I was going to say how to, I recognize the one feeling that I recognize is anger, because it takes a lot to get me angry and then I just explode, which I am working on that. But that is definitely one feeling that I do know.
So. Well, thank you for sharing that. And we also have Dana with their hand raised. So Dana, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. This is it's an interesting question. It took me a while to think about it, but it turns out I'm a lot like Cheyenne in that I find speaking with one of my sisters. I have 7 of them, so I have a lot to choose from. But picking the one that has had the closest similar family issues that I've gone through, I can sit and just talk about where I'm at, and back and forth conversation really helps me understand why I responded in a certain way, why I went in a certain direction, or how I could better serve my family. So I really appreciate being able to speak out and reflect back. That's all I have.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that, Dana.
Yes, thank you. We got someone in the chat, I think. Lawan said engaging in conversation and body language. So I'm loving, it's funny because when I hear the question, I think this one thing, and then all of you have said something. I'm like, oh yeah, that too. Yep, me too. But I forget because I just get like, that's how I would answer, right? So I'm hearing all of these voices and all of these versions of expression. Tammy brought in, I am constantly reflecting on things, which I find helpful personally and in my work with families. I try to express my feelings calmly, but sometimes I cry, not just out of sadness, but sometimes frustration or even joy can bring on tears. I tend to be a patient person, very empathetic and emotional, and people tell me I wear my heart on my sleeve. I hear that. We just had the all tears for all reasons conversation in the car yesterday. That relates with me so well, Tammy. So recognizing, telling the kids that you only don't cry when you're sad, right? You can cry for lots of things. And the one thing that came up from Ms. Probst was sharing like pictures and gifs and memes and stuff. And I forget that that's an expression of feelings, right? Like if I'm trying to be funny or I want to laugh at something or I want to be mad or sad, sometimes I do the exact same thing. I'll share a picture rather than try and use words. So I kind of forgot about these layers of expression. I also kind of love these because they really capture this emotion, this anger, as Colette just said, or this sadness or this joy and elation, so being able to bring that into our current mode of conversation and communication is, I think has shifted and altered kind of how we can show up with people, especially virtually or via distance. I know, Dee, you were talking about how you have that conversation, across the ocean, what does that look like? Because it doesn't get to be where you sit and you feel, what the other person's sitting and thinking and feeling about. So being able to find those ways that you can express those things definitely is a powerful tool. It's Portia. I see your hand up, Andrew.
I am a storyteller, and a lot of times I find myself when I'm relating to young people that I tell a story, and it allows me to express how I'm feeling, whether or not it's a feeling of disappointment or sadness or even bewilderment. And there are, I call them little lessons for life. And so what I am able to do is these life experiences that I've had, that even though it's not what's going on in the moment that I need to reflect and share about, but I have this imaginary storehouse that I can pull out these stories that meet exactly what I'm feeling, but it also evokes the lesson that I want them to know, or to be able for me to express this to them in the story doesn't mean that I'm bantering or I'm fussing at them, but I'm sharing just what I've been through or what I experienced. And hopefully the light bulb goes off, that they understand that whatever that is, it's a lesson for them, but I'm not presenting it in a scolding manner. And I have found that that is the best way for me to express my feelings when I'm dealing with young people.
Thank you, Portia. Thank you for that perspective and sharing that with us. I see another hand up. Jen.
I've unmuted her. I'll ask. There
I'm
we go.
sorry, I don't raise my hand.
Oh, okay.
Sorry
No worries.
about that.
No worries, that happens. Awesome. This is some great moments to reflect, some things to reflect on, because how often do we go through the day and do we take action and do we respond to things, but we don't think how we got here or why we're doing what we do or what's next, right? So I love hearing some of the layers, with Tammy talking about her reflection and how that plays out in what happens after the fact, right? Because you reflect before, you're prepared, you can, versus some of us who may or may not like lash out, do our thing, and then we're like, okay, now we have to do some repair work. Now we have to do the reflection. Some of us do it ahead of time, and that helps set us up for success. So recognizing that there is some benefit to knowing who we are and how we are, with our own feelings, with how they come out, with how they're perceived by others. I think that there's always this, in my experience, this expectation of trying to read the room or read the audience and give them the emotion from myself that they need in that moment rather than the one I need to be feeling or want to be feeling. And so learning to grow in that space, and kind of be open and saying, here's where I am and it's okay. And here's what you're expecting from me. And today I'm letting you down and that's okay too, or whatever. So being able to process through that. Andrew D, do you have anything you guys want to bring in?
Well, I just want to say that I want to thank everyone for sharing. I always love when people are raising their hands, but I also really resonate with what you just said of this is where I am right now and that's okay. I think that's an important thing to remember, especially, it's, we're coming out of the winter blues and all of that. And it's, I like this time of year. It feels very hopeful. Just a couple of weeks ago, it feels like winter is just a never ending slog. But from a mental, emotional vitality, I love seeing the changes in the seasons, because I feel that does reflect where I am mentally sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thank you for that. If you want to bring up the next slide.
Adi, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I'm good. I actually do echo a lot of what everybody's saying. Just resonate a lot.
All right, so here is our second question, which is, what does your self-talk sound like and how can you shift any negative self-talk to positive?
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to be raising your hands, or you can just post in the chat.
Absolutely. Tammy dropped something in there, and seasons of the year as well as seasons of life. Absolutely. Tammy, I started using the phrase season rather than like this for this time of life rather than for this year or this, this decision I made, or, giving it instead of that hard boundary, because it allowed me to show up and receive things that maybe weren't within my expectations. And so I definitely have stretched into using the phrase season as well. And it's changed my thinking and things and how I show up. I love that. Thank you for bringing that up. Andrew dropped that question in the chat. If any of you have a response, we'd love to hear it.
I think for myself, thinking about this question, I think my self-talk is more positive nowadays, especially since getting married, because getting married is one of those things where you're in a relationship, that forever, like you've committed forever kind of relationship. And it's one of those things where I know that if I'm talking negatively about myself, that is going to be present in the relationship, not just in how I feel about myself, but if my wife sees me talking about myself like that, I know that can have a huge impact. And I think over the last couple of years, I've really gotten better about positive self-talk, and not in a, oh, I'm going to get this done, but more just taking each and every day as its own, and just trying to make small changes from there.
I love it. Thank you for that, Andrew. Tammy said, I find I have to keep working on the self-talk. Sometimes I remember to use positive self-talk. Other times I catch myself with stinking thinking. Absolutely. Julianne said, sometimes my self-talk is just taking deep breaths. Right? I love it. I love what you guys are coming up with. Dana, I do have some difficulty moving to positive thinking in the present, but when I'm speaking to my support families, they usually help me refocus more positively. I love hearing all of those. Those are great. And I think that one of the things that I'm finding is it's who I surround myself with. Like I was part of a group of people, and the goal was just positivity all the time. Like that was our thing, right? We were good friends. We were loving life, and that's what we were doing, right? And I noticed a substantial shift in how I was showing up because of that one pocket of my life. Right. And so I was pouring energy into them. They were pouring energy into me, and my cup overfloweth. Right. And so everybody was getting all that goodness. And I love that. And I realized as I move, or as my pocket changes, or as I show up in different areas, I see and feel myself not pouring out as much kindness and love, or positivity as I did in that season, specifically. And so I recognize the intention I now am putting into it, because as I said, my kids are mirrors. If I say things and I'm like, hey guys, I just said that. So, okay, let's both do better next time. Right. And so recognizing the power of that positive thinking, and recognizing that instead of just depending on others to fill my cup with it, then I need to be intentional with how I shift, how I speak, how I think, how I act within that. Pam said, yes, my self-talk is the positive voice, while there is so much around me that is negative, and I must protect and promote self-care in all aspects of my life. Tammy said, it's mainly my inner dialogue. I will catch myself thinking that I could have done something better, or that I failed. Oh yeah. I actually have Post-it notes around my room with positive affirmations to remind me to be kind to myself. Practicing what I preach, I always tell people to be kind to themselves, show themselves grace, but then I don't always do it to myself. Yes, I think secretly we could all raise our hand on that one. I'm speaking from my own experience, and yes, it's up. And I say that because there is this expectation I have on myself, Tammy, I'm with you, that I don't have on others. I don't know where it came from. I don't know why it exists, but it does. It changes, the positivity within versus what I'm sending out into the world. Carolyn says, think first, take the conversation apart, breathe, and sometimes don't comment, just listen. Bounce it off yourself before you speak. Man, you guys are full of goodness today. So much good stuff. So recognizing that, sometimes that positive self-talk is, I love it. Both of you have said silence, or listening, or breathing. It doesn't have to be talk, right? That's a good insight. Thank you. Jennifer said, I think I learned that positive self-talk is so critical to myself, my network, my kids, and my family. Yes, practice what you preach. Yes, I think the more you practice, the easier it becomes, right? Tammy said, same, it's very hard to unlearn those bad habits. Yeah, instead of unlearning, you replace them with a good one, right? So recognizing what that looks like, how that replacement feels. Just like with basketball, is the place I see it the most, but pivot, right? I'm not taking a step, but I'm taking a step in a different direction, right? So being able to recognize when life comes at you, or you're going at life, right? And something is in the way and you have to do that pivot. You're not acting, or not speaking, or, whatever that looks like in the situation, but you're going where you need to go. So you're replacing that with, that purpose, intention, and continuing on that plan. Yes, my self-talk is about how to control my mind and be mindful. Recognizing I pray and meditate as well. And Jennifer, you are welcome. Use that analogy at will, right? But that's the one thing for me to recognize. I say pivot all the time, and I don't love basketball, if I'm being honest, but it's the most visually apt thing I can think of to remind myself that it's not changing who I am or how I am or my skill set or anything. I'm just doing something different, right? And so it's a powerful thing, especially with my kiddos at their ages, to recognize their life isn't over because they couldn't hang out with that friend today. It's just maybe we do it next week instead, right? We pivot. Yes, Tammy Ross says pivot all the time. for the couch episode on on Friends. You can look that up later. Yes, absolutely. Andrew, if you want to bring up the next one. So just a reminder that these questions, some of these questions we've brought forth today under the umbrella of mental emotional vitality are from our Vitality Cafés. And so when we sit and we have conversations with like-minded people and hold space, share ourselves, hear from others, they're questions like this that we get to just sit. And I love it because these aren't questions that outside of cafes, people don't ask me. They don't hold space for me when I need to respond. They may not think of, or I may not want to share with, right? So recognizing that I love some of these questions that we pull forward to be able to be in that space, you know, when we go into that cafe and we sit with those people and respond. Share some positive quotes, sayings, or affirmations that assist you in tough times. And Tammy's quote was, just because someone slaps a label on you doesn't mean you have to own it. I think this group is going to give us some really good stuff. I'm looking forward to seeing what they all say. Andrew, do you want to read yours out loud?
Yeah, I posted mine in the chat. This is from one of my shows that I always have a soft spot for, but the quote is, "It gets easier. Every day it gets a little easier, but you got to do it every day. That's the hard part. But it does get easier." And that is something that, I don't know, this mentality always puts me in a good place, as well as this is actually for myself, it's a saying that works well for good times and bad times, but the saying of "this too shall pass." You know, that's something, if it's the good times, it keeps you humble, you know, it's not always going to last, but if it's the bad times, it's like, you know, you're in a valley right now, but there's always going to be a way out of that valley.
Love it. Colette said, complaining without solutions is whining. And this has helped me more times than you can count. I love that. I need to own that one. I told you this group is going to have some great ones. Michelle, cast all your cares on the Lord because he cares for you. Absolutely. That's from 1 Peter 5:7. Really some good stuff. Tammy, you don't have to participate in every fight you're invited to. Maybe we should produce a book, guys. These are good. Julie Ann, I get by with a little help from my friends. Pam, no weapon formed against me shall prosper. Tammy's with me. So many great quotes. Dana said, instead of worrying about what you cannot control, shift your energy to what you can create. And that's Roy T. Bennett. I assume that's a book, The Light in the Heart. Yes, and the Beatles quotes. Yes. How many song lyrics have become things that we implement, right? From like Nelly, I'm number 1. 2 is not a winner, and 3 nobody remembers, right? Like, I can do this. I can accomplish it. I'm going to be number 1. No? Okay. That was my anthem in high school. So there's a little, that's how old I am. But recognizing that there are some things that, you know, I love it. I'm going to make it through this year if it kills me. The Mountain Goats. I assume that's a band.
That's my favorite song lyric.
Yes. Things songwriters have gotten from the Bible. Let it be. There's so many things, you know. One of my life's verses personally is Isaiah 6:8. Here am I, send me. And I have to remember that when I say that, that means I get to handle all of the stuff that comes on the backside of that send, right? So if I'm here for it, I'm here for all of it. And so recognizing that helps me show up and remind myself, I said yes, I am here. And so I am capable, and I am able, and I am able to be resourceful when needed to be able to get through or to show up in my best self where I am. Yes, we've got what you think you become, what you feel you attract, and what you imagine you create. To each his own. Man, you guys have some good stuff. I love it. Lots of good things here.
Do you have any quotes?
I think of this one. I don't think it's necessarily a quote, but it's a social media account that I follow. The account name is "I'd rather be with my dog." And it's just one of those like very silly things that they post, cute or silly things of dogs. But that phrase kind of definitely like always here and there jumps to me to remember little simple things that a creature whether it's an animal or pet or us as humans, should and could appreciate deep down when we do have a lot more complex thoughts and that troubles us or frustrates us. Sometimes, like if I get stressed or if I feel like I've been at the computer and my eyes are sore for too long, I look at my dog, he's just like, showing me his belly and wanted some belly rub. And I go over and rub his belly and I feel so much better for myself too. And he's super happy and wagging tails. So those moments definitely remind me of those, very basic happiness that we are all capable of and we all have and need, and to check in with ourselves. I just feel like dogs is one of the examples that remind us of those things. That's really nice to have around.
I'm a dog person too, so I can, I definitely agree with that. We have a little corgi who is my office mate. And he's not here right now, actually. He ditched me for the webinar, but he's usually here.
Yep. Yes, another favorite is live and let live. Andrew, if you want to go to the next question.
So all of these questions have kind of been getting us in a space of just answering this final question, is what positive difference have you seen Be Strong Families make and or Parent Cafés make?
Absolutely. So as part of our Vitality, Spring into Vitality campaign that we are launching today, you may have seen the email this morning. If you haven't, drop your email in the chat. We'd love to add you. But recognizing that we are asking that people respond and reflect for what is it that is happening with and through Be Strong Families in your own life and the lives of others. Some of us work with families, some of us are a recipient family, right? So we have all people are present. And so we want to know what is a positive difference that you have seen from Be Strong Families and or Parent Cafés, either that you host or attend, make. And we'd love to capture these. We'd love to be able to just kind of share them out with the world and let people know what is happening in the world of people when we connect, when we spend time together, when we lean in these settings like cafes. So we're going to give you a couple minutes if we want to go ahead and drop those in the chat, or like Andrew said, if you want to raise your hand, we'd love to hear from you.
I see a hand from Dana.
Go ahead, Dana.
So I'm I'm a trained facilitator for Be Strong Families, and we're still trying to get our community to understand how wonderful this program is. And the reason why I know it's wonderful is because with the small groups that we've had so far over the last, because we got trained in 2020, 2021, something like that. I've seen in my family, I've been reminded through others' experiences at the cafes how important communication and support systems and all the 5 factors really are in everyone's life. And I just wish I knew how to get these parent cafes to be more attended across the country, because I think it would help every child and every family and every teen. I mean, it's just a wonderful program. So thank you for having these, because this helps me to get more ideas from across the country.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Portia's got her hand up.
In the survey question that we added to the link, mine was all about how the Parent Cafe, the peer-to-peer learning and sharing that happens to me is always uplifting. It's kind of like centers me when I'm participating, that allows me to know that I'm really on a good course. And it defines the fact that, working with youth, this is a part of my living with purpose. And to hear and be able to share with other parents and caregivers is just phenomenal. But when I think about the cafe resource and some of the toolkits that we have. I just don't use them necessarily for the kids I'm fostering and working with, but I utilize them with some of the community members of mine that are doing positive programs with kids, and they are always amazed. Wow, where'd you get that? And I go, you gotta be a part of this wonderful BSF, because if you just join a parent cafe, you will be amazed, and go on to the resource and buy some of these kits based on what it is that you're dealing with, and just all that you all have provided as far as, and I'm sorry if I'm being long-winded, the social emotional learning program pieces that you guys have presented in cafe. I am just like, yes, it's what we need, and it's the understanding that we need to share, because it's important about what's going on with these kids socially, and for us to understand how that works, even when they're dealing with therapists, and especially if they're in behavioral schools where they're being, modified, so that we can understand how to meet some of these traumas and situations that they're going through. So I'm just thumbs up, 5 stars to the Parent Cafe.
Thank you, Portia. Thank you for sharing that so enthusiastically. I love it. Some of the other words that have been brought to this space are bringing people together. They help me to see the positive in myself and in others. BSF and Parent Cafes have made having difficult conversations okay, normalizing. Self-care. I always leave feeling uplifted. It brings a sense of belonging with the participant. I've heard also it's a wonderful emotional outlet and a judgment-free zone. Great peer-to-peer learning through the conversations and one-on-one activity. They are life transitioning in so many ways. Love it. I'm so grateful to hear this. I myself am a fan of Be Strong Families because the cafe was brought to my little town. Right. So we may not have all the big city resources, but cafes were there, and it was a space for me to have a community with like-minded people who were going through and making the choices in life that I did and was making, that nobody else understood. They're like, you're doing what? Why? What, with who? Huh? And these people are like, oh yeah, get ready for this is coming up. And I'm like, okay, you see me, you hear me, you feel me. And then I know who to call, right? When those moments come up and those moments happen. And then I can feel, just like I read a second ago, I can feel free to speak without being judged, to say, this is something I struggle with. And rather than people saying, then quit, they can say, here's some tools, here's some resources, here's a cup of coffee, let's sit and, I'll listen. So whatever it takes in that moment, in that season, to be able to find a space in a cafe for me has been powerful. Absolutely. Anybody else want to speak something?
Yeah, just thinking about the positive difference that I've seen Be Strong Families and Parent Cafes make. This is from a perspective of being tech support for some online cafes that we did. I was the tech support for one of our Taste of Cafes that happens every Friday. Just a little plug right there. But I was the tech support, and I was putting everybody into their rooms. And once everybody's in their rooms, I'm just kind of sitting in the main hub, just kind of waiting for people to come back after their sessions. And I can't think of anything more exciting to a Friday than sitting there and seeing like people start coming back and just see their eyes light up with just like the conversations that they had. And I don't know exactly what they talked about. And, it's just a small little gathering of people in that room, but each and every time I see them come back, and I love seeing how excited they are about the conversations they had. And I love seeing what they have to say about it, how it impacted them, and their aha moment. So that's something from at least the tech side that I just really, really enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. Thank you all for bringing yourself and your words and your wisdom, your experience into that and sharing with us. Andrew, as we will move along, we will give you a little more feedback and information on what's happening with this campaign. So as we are springing into vitality, like I said, you should have received an email this morning. If you did not, drop your email in the chat, and Dee and Andrew will make sure that you get added to our list so you are up to date with the most information. You should also see things on our Be Strong Families Facebook page, as well as our Instagram account. And so from March, which is now, guys, it is the middle of March. When did that happen? March through... Right. Spring is here. I'm ready for it. So from March through an event that we're going to end with in June, we are going to have a variety of super fun, exciting events. And it's not just something like this webinar where we sit and we have conversation. It's going to be some engaging, some activities, some virtual events, and all kinds of things that may interest you, and that will bring us together in focus of community and wellness and growth. If you have your phones and you're able to scan that QR code, or if you want to jump in the chat and click that link, Andrew, put it in here. Just making sure. Okay, perfect. It went. So what this looks like is March. Here you are. Thank you for launching March with us. So the words that you shared, the elements that you spoke out are going to get us started in collecting what it is that our community thinks about, and they've been reflecting on and responding to us about, with mental emotional vitality within the setting of Be Strong Families as an organization, as well as the cafes that we host or that you host alongside us. So we recognize that we're going to collect those and we're going to share them so that way others can hear what's happening with people, right? We want to know. So we are asking that you join us in that. If you are unable to respond or want to think, I understand that people may want to deliberate on those thoughts a little more, or they really want to like take it in and then give us some feedback. Feel free to click that link and you can save that for later and give us a response later in the month. That's totally acceptable too. Or maybe you want to attend more cafes before you say that. So back just a second ago, Andrew, I didn't say it. There are some other events that'll be up and happening. So we'll have some activities. We want to get everybody outside and moving. So we're going to do a sponsored movement in April. So we're going to kind of like a jump-a-thon or like a walk-a-thon. We're going to ask you to get sponsors for your movement. We're doing it as a team on April 15th. If you want to join us on that day for that hour. Spiritual vitality, we've got a yoga nidra session on May 14th. And we've got a watercolor paint and sip session on May 21st. Both of those will be benefiting Be Strong Families as you join us with those fun activities. We're also kicking off our family tree, which is going to be our monthly subscription donation for Be Strong Families. So if you want to sacrifice one coffee a month and give us that $5, or that, if you're me, $8.20. Don't ask how I know that. So if you want to give us that $8.20 once a month, we would love to have it and continue to do the work that we're doing around the country and around the world. And then last but not least, as I mentioned a moment ago, we're going to do a social virtual event. It's actually an escape room. So if you have ever done a murder mystery, if you have ever done an escape room in person, this is going to be an online version. And I am stoked because I've done neither. I've done a murder mystery, but I've never done an escape room in person. And so just watching the videos and watching how this is going to happen and take place, I'm super excited to see how this is going to go. And again, it's benefiting Be Strong Families as an organization. Thank you, Andrew, for going back to that for me.
I have to say, I'm really excited about the let's move outside and have somebody sponsor for it, so I can actually set a goal to say I'm going to walk this many miles or bike this many trips, and have somebody hold me accountable for it, and then that person can, donate however we decided. That's definitely something I need. I feel like that peer pressure, however the pressure is always something that keeps me going for any sort of physical exercise. So I'll definitely be jumping on that first.
Awesome. I love it. And that's coming up soon. So as we end this webinar, traditionally we ask you to type and amplify hashtag in the chat. What is it? We are obviously amplifying Spring into Vitality. I would love to hear, what is it that you want to amplify after this session? Andrew, amplify cafe power. I love it. Amplify Parent Cafés. I'm assuming that's New Hampshire. I trained a group in New Hampshire. They were a blast. I'm all for that. That's exciting. Karen, amplify positivity. Yes, amplify, keep it moving. These are great. Keep them coming. So just a reminder that if you've never been to a Vitality Cafe, or if you love today and you want to dig in a little deeper, we do have a Taste of Vitality Cafe, Spring into Vitality, scheduled for this Friday. It's going to be at noon. I believe it's an hour and a half. And so it's a little bit longer. And so what that looks like is you'll come in and instead of the 2 rounds of conversation, we have 1, but everything else in the cafe you'll get to experience through our model of how we host them and how they work. So if you are a cafe fan, come and get served. I think somebody mentioned earlier self-care. So give yourself a little self-care on Friday. Invite others to join you in that experience as well. Along maybe the activities that we're doing this next couple months or this cafe experience on Friday. We'd love to have it. I'm seeing some more good hashtags. Amplify positive self-talk, amplify self-love, amplify courage. Welcome, Tanya. Good to have you. Yes, Dana, see? I don't see faces, so it's hard to recognize. Good to see you again. Good to hear from you again. I love it. And just to wrap us up again, there are some more Be Strong Families webinars, both English and Spanish. So if you are bilingual and you want to partake in all of them, feel free. Or if you have those who speak Spanish in your organization or within your family, you want to share those with them as well. We have them Tuesday through, actually there's a couple through next week as well. What is happening? We'd love for you to join us and continue to come and invite others. Andrew dropped the link in the chat. And once again, these are live. They are streamed on our YouTube channel. So if you go to bit.ly/BSF YouTube, you will find all of the webinars from the past, almost two and a half years. And Andrew's got those up and running, as well as you can see the progression of how they've changed different topics, different ideas, things that you want to tap into, as well as this one and those going forward. So if there was something today that you wanted to share with others, feel free you can share that link with them. And if you have any other questions about that, feel free to reach out. Andrew and I and Dee will do our best to help you and guide you.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for today's webinar. I feel very emotional, mental vitality boosted right now. I just want to ask everybody to have a really awesome week, and we'll see you